Yes? Where do you do Bruchot Abot? I will try here.
Let's see how it goes.
Well, why would it be any different? Like, who's touching things?
When I came on Wednesday, it was all disconnected.
Why?
I don't know. It did the cables. I had to put it all back. I was doing the service and kicking myself. Hello, everyone. Hi, Alina, Alan. And again, we may have some people who send us messages before Alina and Alan, but we have no way to see those messages. I just opened the chat. Hi, Yehuda. Hi, Eric. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to start our service with a different welcoming song today. Still on page 4, but we haven't done this one in a while. So hi, hi Deb, hi Louis, hi Marvin. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. Let's go. Shabbat.
Go.
Bruchot Avahot tachat kanfei hashechina Bruchim habayim tachat kanfei hashechina Be blessed beneath the wings of Shekinah. Be blessed with love. Be blessed with peace. Bruchot Avahot tachat kanfei Shekinah. Bruchim habayim tachat kanfei Shekinah. May you be blessed beneath the wings of Shekinah. Be blessed with love. Be blessed with peace. May you be blessed beneath the wings of Shekinah. Be blessed with love. Be blessed with peace. And good morning. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us into your homes to lead your services. And so we have an opportunity to celebrate Shabbat together. We might be separated physically, but we are united in prayer. And it's a great feeling. And then we are also united in the chat. So let me see who is here early this morning. We have Alan and Gloria Cantor, Jerome Fomin. Welcome, Jerome. He's going to read the Haftorah for us today. Hi, Judy. Hi, Gail. Hi, David and Marcia. Hello, Gloria. Perdomo. Hi, Terry. And Terry. Right? And then we have Debbie Pollock, Murray Nason. Welcome all. Welcome. It's great to have you there. We are going to use the special Siddur that we use here at the Shari Zedek that you can get from our website, www.szwinnipeg.ca. You should look there for the Siddur for Shabbat morning. You get the PDF so you can follow our services. You can be a participator, not just an spectator. It's great to participate with us. It's great to sing along. It's great to feel that we are celebrating together because that's Shabbat. Shabbat is a day of joy, not just a day of rest. So we have to lift up our spirit. We're going to help you to do that, but you have to play with us. You have to be a good sport. That's how my son says when I don't want to play with him. So we can do this together. Let's begin counting our blessing. And this concept of counting our blessings is very important this week as we study Parshat Korach. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the sermon, but he was one that did not count blessings. So don't be like him. Let's count blessings together. Page 5, Birkot HaShachar. Please rise wherever you are. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech v'minavat kimenu b'layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorihin.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Israel.
Amen.
Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokeif kefufim.
Amen.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Page 6. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, roka haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asali kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hameichi mitzadei gaber.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Israel v'gevura.
Amen.
Let's do it together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi. Tehorai, Tehorai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Israel betifara.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Anoten layaef koach.
Amen.
One more time. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorai, Tehorai. Please remain standing for Baruch She'amar, page 7. Give me a minute.
No, it doesn't work.
This?
Yeah, it's broken. It's broken. Just needed slides.
Page 7. Baruch She'amar ve'aya olam. Baruch Hu. Baruch Oseh Bereshit. Baruch Omer ve'oseh. Baruch Ozer u'mekayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz. Baruch merachem al ha'beriot. Baruch משלם שכר טוב ליראיו. ברוך חי לעד, מקיים לנצח. ברוך מודה ומציל, ברוך שמו. לי לי לה 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 La 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 da da la da da la 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 da 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 la la da la da la da 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 la da da la da da la da 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 la 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 da 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 da. La 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 da 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 la 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 da 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 la 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 la. You may be seated. Let's see who else is here. We have Debbie Pollack, Leon Pinkovich. Hello, hello. Gail Cantor, Marilyn Pearl. Welcome, Alice and Bill, Ariel Lee, Deborah Bernhardt. Shabbat Shalom, Sarah Schoenfeld. Shabbat Shalom. Yes, it's a beautiful melody to Birkot HaShachar. Thank you. That is a Craig Taubman melody. And hello, Johan Sif. Welcome. Welcome to our service. It's great to have you there. Let's continue then. Page 148. This is a melody that I brought with me from Argentina. For those who are always curious, where are the melodies that we sing here at the Sher Zedek? Well, we started with Taubman. Now we move to South America. Hallelujah Adonai min hashamayim. Hallelujah bambromim. Hallelujah kol malachah. Hallelujah kol tzefah. Hallelujah. 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 Shemesh ve'yareya. Hallelujah. Kol ve'yor. Hallelujah. Shemeya shamayim ve'amayim asher me'al hashamayim. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kol malacham, hallelujah, kol Zepam. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We continue now with the Mourner's Kaddish, page 46. Please rise. Itgadal ve'itgadash shemei daba.
Amen.
Be'almad divrach irutei ve'yamlich malchutei. B'chayachon u'vyomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Israel. Ba'gala u'bizman kariv ve'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'le'olmei olmaya. Itvarach ve'ishtavach ve'itpa'ar ve'itromam ve'itnaseh. Ve'ithatar ve'itale ve'italal. Shemei dekudesha berichu.
Brichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata. U'shvechata ve'nechemata. Lamiram be'alma v'imeru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehesh lama rava min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom imrumav. U'yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. We'll return now to page 10. Hi, Terry Cherniak and Yerach Lezerovich. Welcome, welcome. Page 10, second paragraph. Shochenad marom bekadosh shemo.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo.
Befi yesharim titalal ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, בקרב קדושים תתקדש. Bottom of the page. יתקדל ויתקדש שמדע אבא.
Amen.
ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב ואימרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל. שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. ושבחתה ונחמתה דעמידם בעלמא ואימרו 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 ואימרו. Please rise once again for the Barhu, our opportunity to bless the name of God, the source of all blessing. Page 12. Barehu et Adonai Hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uborech osher be seated. As we continue on page 13, top of the page, we have a very upbeat version of Or Hadash.
See if I can get the. Well, I got to do the call and answer part, right? So we'll see if we can get the.
Yeah, meanwhile, let's see who's here. Lon Weiss, from his usual seat.
It's a little.
I don't want to know what that one is.
It's right there.
Well, maybe he's in the deck, right?
Whenever we finally do get to have people back in here, I don't want to hear any of this, oh, I need to sit in my usual seat nonsense. Because you know we're going to have to space people, and we're going to have to figure all that out. But if anybody comes up and says, I'm sorry, I don't care about the pandemic or social distancing, I need my seat. Well, we're going to remind them of the Korach Parsha, because that's a very Korach move.
Then you think that
No, I'm not digging on Lauren right now. He's making a joke. I'm just saying, it
the
made
ground
me
is
think.
going to open and going to swallow them.
Spoiler alert. Could you just imagine that, though? Excuse me, sir, we need everybody to, or excuse me, miss, we need everybody to sit 6 feet apart. I don't care, that's my seat. My grandfather sat there, my great-grandfather sat there.
I don't know. I'm more afraid of people coming in their pajamas after all this.
Well, we look forward one day to being able to do this again. In the meantime, it's going really, really well. It's going really, really.
From Managua.
From where?
Managua.
In Nicaragua. I think that's in Nicaragua, is it not?
Josué. You have to practice your ch.
Bonnie's not on the mic, so Bonnie was just saying that there's.
Josué
We know that
Selva.
one of the silver linings of this
And
of turning into a broadcast is the people that we have who have kind of become Shared people from all over the world. Orlando, New York, Toronto, Nicaragua, Argentina,
Yeah.
Mexico,
Somebody from India.
India. I mean, it's
We should-
Newfoundland.
we
We have people in Newfoundland who watch on Fridays usually. Former Winnipeggers. It's very, very cool.
Josué. Yeah, it's good to know that we have Jewish people there. It's nice. It's nice.
We got Jewish people everywhere.
Everywhere.
We really do.
Everywhere. But before,
We got people.
but you see, the big challenge for Jews is to find a community, right? Wherever you are.
100%.
Now, with technology, it's kind of a little bit easier to find a community because you can join a virtual
Right.
community. So it's
Which in these days is a tremendous backup plan, a tremendous substitute.
yes, we should
For
have
being together.
actually. If you want to type in the chat box where you're watching from, that would be great. So we can all know how many different places are there. Even if you're in the North End, that counts.
It kind of feels like,
River Heights.
Rabbi, all these things, I wrote about it in the shofar, all these things remind me so much of being back
Oh,
on the radio again,
see?
right?
Joanna
It's like-
Meyer from Texas.
Well, it's like, who do we have on the line right now? Caller? Oh, that's Joanne Meyer from Texas.
Corey Glassberg from Toronto.
Oh, Corey from Toronto. What's on your mind today?
It's like a radio.
It's exactly like a radio show. You can see us and we can't see you, which is what I wrote about in the shofar, which I miss, and I know we all miss. But
Louis Stern from Linden Woods. And it's funny because when I went once to his house, it's a clone of my house.
well, most of the houses in Linden Woods
But
are
same-
very, very, very
Same
similar.
builder. And I entered, said, deja vu. You know,
Aren't you supposed to pronounce it deja vu? Isn't the J silent in, or isn't it more like a
He's trying to be Canadian.
okay.
deja vu?
Did you realize that I was talking so you could find the Or Hadash?
I found it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I've been ready for a few minutes.
Let's do it together. Or Hadash, Or Hadash, Or Hadash al Zion Tahir.
Or Chadash, Or Chadash, Or Chadash od Zion
Repeat
Tahir.
after me. Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Meheira Leoro, Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Veniske,
Veniske,
Veniske Hulanu, Meheira Leoro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzei meoro.
Amen.
David Salita, South End. Earl Barish, south of Winnipeg. Be more specific. Let's continue with the Shema Israel. We have a beautiful version that we haven't done in a while, and it's where we sing a version that tried to capture the essence of the Shema Israel. Beautiful song written by a cantor of the United States. His name is Douglas Cutler. It has a very interesting name. The name of the song, of the prayer, tells it all. Listen. Alice Wiseman, East Fort Garry. Page 14. If you're lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way, and listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there is still a voice that you can hear if you listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill, or from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Leolam.
Listen to our God. Listen to our God. Let's see who else is here. Deborah Bernhout, she's in Ottawa, Ontario. Thelma Sures is in Windsor Park. Okay. Page 17, middle of the page, Song of Hope, Song of Victory, Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha Ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha Nedar Ba'kodesh, Nora Tehilot Osefele. מי כמוך
באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה, שיבחו גאולים לשמך, על שפת הים, יחד כולם, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
צור ישראל, תומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו יהודה בישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Please remain standing and turn to page 18 so we can begin with the chanting of the morning Amidah together. This is our opportunity to achieve an even deeper connection with our Creator. So, in order to do that, we are going to start singing together up to the end of a prayer called Le Dor Vador, which technically is the third blessing of the Amidah. And then we are going to have an opportunity to continue silently. During that part, you can use the word printed on your Sidurim, on your prayer books, or you may choose to use your own words of prayer if that's the best way you have to connect with your Creator. Because that's the most important thing that we are trying to achieve now, is to find that peace of mind and that opportunity to have an honest and open conversation with our God. Page 18, let's start together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מקיים את דמעתם, רב להושיע מוריד הטל, מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני יעפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידום אליו, מלך מימית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמנת לי החיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. Bottom of page 20. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו. ישמעי מערום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא אל זה ואמר. 21. קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אז וקול רעש גדול עד וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לעומת צרפים לעומת העם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב וימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. והננו תרנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזיך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור.
הללויה. Page 22, second paragraph, לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימות לעולם ועד. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימות לעולם ועד. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai. Ahel Akadosh. Please continue with your silent prayer. Once you finish your prayer, please feel free to be seated. I'm trying to follow the chat here. It's very interesting how people are talking to each other, which is exactly what happened here in the synagogue, right? People are talking to each other. It's great. It's a way to create community. In fact, let me tell you something very funny, because my son goes to the Greek Academy of Jewish Education, and they have every Shabbat a virtual Shabbat over Zoom. And my son, he's 6, very smart, and he really knows his computer. He started to use the chat on Zoom to talk to his buddies during the Kabbalah Shabbat. And I received a phone call from the school saying that I have to talk to my son, that he should not be doing that. And then I was saying, how can I explain that to him when that's what he sees? Here at the Sher Zedek, we actually encourage people to talk to each other, because a synagogue in Hebrew is called a Beit Knesset, which is a house of gathering. And within the traditional synagogue, this is exactly what happened. You have people that they have a moment to pray, a moment to chat. That's the richness of the synagogue experience. So, but anyway, I have to explain to him that at school they don't like people to talk to each other. They just want people to pay attention to their teachers. He was a little disappointed that he couldn't use the chat during the service. But yeah, right? Isn't that right? That we have different people come to synagogue for different reasons. It's like the old joke that it says, Goldberg comes to synagogue to talk to God. I come to synagogue to talk to Goldberg. That's the old one. Nothing against the Goldbergs, of course. Just in case there is a Goldberg watching a service. Let's continue now with Kaddish Shalem, page 32. Hi, David Salita. Yes, you can have an aliyah. I already wrote it down. I'm not sure how many we need. Matthew will give us more information, but I can see at least 2 open. So, yeah, 2 open. One is excellent. Okay. Kaddish Shalem, page 32. התגדל שמרבה בעלבא דברה חירותי וימליק מלכותי וחייקונו יום יכונו וכת כל בית ישראל ועל הזמן גרי וימרו יש מרבה מבורך לעלם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך ושתבח בתורת ובתנשא ותדר ותעלה ותעלה על שם קודשה בריחו לאין לה מקורחת ושידתה תושבחת ונחמתה מרים אלמה וימרו תתקבל צלותנו ותן לכל ישראל כותב ובון דשמיא וימרו יש למרמים שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו Amen. Please rise once again for the Torah service, page 33. Hi, Lori and Israel bin Nun. Welcome. Vayevinsua, page 33, as we open the ark. Vayehi vinsua Aaron vayomer Moshe. Kuma Adonai veyafutzu oyevecha. וינוסו משריך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Le'amo Israel, Bikedushato. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Your turn. אחד אלוהינו, גאדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ כל בשמיים ובארץ כאדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לאדון רגליו קדוש רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Please be seated. Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. And Yasher Korach to Rabbi Anivo Mas. Rabbi, nice job. With Shacharit and with the Amidah, the Torah service, some explanations. We look forward to the Devar Torah coming up just under an hour from now, after we get through our Torah reading for this week's Parsha, which we alluded to earlier, is Parshat Korach. So we've got some audio. We've done a little congregational participation this morning, haven't we? With people letting us know from where they are tuning in.
Yeah, I was telling them that you missed that part. That Ronen got into trouble at school because they have Kabbalat Shabbat on Zoom.
Okay.
He decided to chat with his buddies.
You told me this story privately. And then they sent a message home to the
called
parents.
me.
I know. Well, you're not supposed to talk during an assembly, and you're not supposed to talk, I guess, during Kabbalat Shabbat. But, so let's keep the audience participation going. Here's a little trivia. What's our prize, maybe? What could our prize be? $25 gift certificate to Joel LaFon's Kitchen Catering? I could see that going over.
Buy you a fry.
We could see that going over. This is the trivia question I want to put to you. This week's Parsha is named for a person, Korach. Not the most savory person in a while that we see in the Torah. Arguably one of the real bad guys of the Torah. And we'll see what happens. If you don't already know the story, Korach leads a rebellion against Moshe and against Aharon. Because Korach is a Levi. And he gets support really for kind of two reasons. They don't like Moses' leadership, and they don't like that Aharon and his sons are the Kohanim, separated from among the Levi'im. Right? The Kohanim get to do all the really cool stuff. Sacrifices, burning incense, all the cool stuff in the Mishkan. The Levi'im, they're elevated among the rest of the community, but they don't get to do any of that fun stuff. They just kind of have to carry and help. Right? So they're not too thrilled about it. This is, if you saw my message yesterday in the Weekly Wisdom on the video, and it'll be brought up in the Devar Torah as well, Korach and his followers are motivated by jealousy and ego and pride, and it's all very, very self-serving, right? We know, and we've seen it play out, Moses is an amazing leader, incredibly humble. How many times has Moses argued on behalf of the people? How many times has he had to sacrifice for the good of himself, for the good of the people? So we know that this is absurd, but still that's what the story is. Korach leads this rebellion. He gets a couple of guys, Datan and Aviram, and another guy named On, a lot of people from the tribe of Reuven. Why they can get Reuven? Because they're ticked off, because as we've seen throughout the book of Bamidbar, Reuven, even though they are the first tribe, the oldest son of Yaakov, they have been slowly getting supplanted by Yehudah, by Judah. And so they're unhappy again for selfish reasons. So you've got a grumbling, and they're starting to inspire other people to follow them because, of course, the wilderness, it seems, was an easy place to, rustle up some dissent, what with not a lot of food and all the heat and not a lot of water and all the wandering and all the uncertainty. We can kind of relate to that, can't we? So here's the trivia question. How many parshiot in the Torah are named for people? Nope, Bonnie doesn't get to play. Staff is exempted. $25 Joel LaFon Kitchen gift certificate on the line. You have until the end of the Torah service. Get your answers in. You also have to tell us who they all are. How many parshiot in the Torah are named for people? And name them. We'll check in later. We'll get a chance to get some answers in. We can see the order. Don't. That. And you have to say which ones. How many and who are they? And the chat, of course, I know other people can see the chat, so we'll see how that goes. So we have a parsha here named for a person, and he's the central figure here, Korach, leading a rebellion. There are so many. Yesterday in my video, I was talking about this midrash, that when Korach, you know the midrash, right? When I really, really love these stories, I don't want to speak for Rabbi Mas, but I find the midrash fascinating when they include conversations that we don't see in the Torah. Right, when we kind of hear the story behind this story, right? There's a famous one about the back and forth that we don't read in the Torah between Abraham and God when God tells Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, that there's a back and forth. So the Midrash fills in the blanks, some of the things that we may wonder that don't get addressed in the Torah. And in this parsha in particular, and in this part of the reading, the triennial reading, remember we're back to the first part of the triennial cycle after making allowances for bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs that we've postponed. We're in the first triennial year. So we're the first third of this Parsha of Korach, and there are some fantastic stories from the Midrash, and a little bit from the Talmud that I want to share with you as we go on. But let's get into the reading. We've got enough of an introduction to see what happens. The trivia questions out there. Page 860, if you have the Etz Chaim Chumash with us, available on PDF form on the website, szwinnipeg.ca. Page 860, we're in chapter 16 of the book of Numbers, book of Bamidbar, and our first Aliyah Rishon will be verses 1 through 3. Bonnie is going to read for us, and we will get into it right now. But we need some Aliyot as well. Do we have anyone for Aliyot? Who do we have? Who's our first Aliyah?
David Salita.
David Salita. Do we have a Hebrew name? Got it. V'yazor v'yashir l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol avogodel Eloheinu tenu chavod Torah yamo David ben Avraham Moshe ve'eti l'aliyah rishona Baruch shenatan Torah Yisrael b'kedushato ve'atem madbekim Adonai lechem chaim kolchem hayom. Baruch et Adonai Amvorach. Baruch Adonai Amvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram b'nei Eliyav ve'on ben Pelet b'nei Reuven vayakumu livnei Moshe ve'anashim ibnei Yisrael chamishim u'matayim nesiei da kiryei moed anshe Shem Vayikahalu al Moshe ve'al Aharon Vayomru alehem Rav lachem Ki chol ha'ida kulam kedoshim uvtocham Adonai Umadu atit naseu al kehal Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher koach to David Salita, our honorary first honoree this morning. We'll move on to Sheni, which is the second Aliyah in just a moment. It's page 861, verses 4 through 7, as Bonnie Robinson will continue for us. Yasher kochech, beautiful first Aliyah there. So one of the little midrashim here, which I find fascinating, Korach gets help from Datan and Aviram. Also On, but On, you'll see, gets spared. And there's an interesting story about why that happens, but that's maybe for next year. Datan and Aviram are very interesting characters. They are from Reuven, right? We were talking about from Reuven. And it's very fascinating. One of the sages, Menachem Mendel Kasher, I think his name was, he was a 20th century, he was originally from Warsaw, and then he lived in Israel for a long time, died in 1983, at old age 88. He wrote a compilation called Torah Shalema, the complete Torah. You've heard of this, of course, right? And in it, he talks about how Datan and Aviram, they're named here, but they've actually been a thorn in the side of Moshe throughout the Torah. They are, we are told by this midrash, responsible for a lot of what we have assumed were anonymous or unnamed episodes. What are they? What am I talking about? Remember when Moshe had to run away as a young man from Egypt after killing that taskmaster, and he thought nobody saw him? And then the next day, we're told 2 Hebrew slaves were arguing, and then Moshe tried to stop them. They're like, what, are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian? That was Datan and Aviram. And do you remember when, what was the other one? Oh, they were complaining. Whenever there was an anonymous complaint, we see this in chapter 5 in the book of Exodus, complaining at Moshe and Aharon, and then complaining about water, I think it is, or maybe it was food. We thought it was unnamed. We're told it was Datan and Aviram there as well. And also, we're told that there were a couple of people that when the man from heaven first fell down, and they were told, you can't collect extra, right? If you collect extra, it'll be disgusting. There were a couple of guys who went out, we're told, and collected extra. They're not named in the Torah, but we're told in the Midrash, they were Datan and Aviram as well.
That's in the movie, The Ten Commandments, actually.
Is it in the movie The Ten Commandments?
Yeah, the God is Dathan, they call it.
Dathan. You need your microphone if you're going to get on. People need to hear you. Anyway, it's very interesting that Datan and Aviram, in the tradition, it's not just here, that they are always those opposers. They are always a thorn in Moshe and Aharon's side. And here we actually get them named in the Torah, and they join forces with Korach. Thought you may find that interesting. I certainly did. Sheni is next. Again, verses 4 through 7. Who's our honoree? Roberto Franco.
Joseph ben David.
Yamohod Yosef ben David. Lalia Shniah. Baruch Adonai Amvorach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim Benatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav vaydaber el Korach v'el kol adato lemor boker v'yod Adonai et asher lo v'yad hakadosh v'hikri v'elav v'et asher yivchar bo yakri v'elav Zot asu kechulachem achtot Korach v'chol adato utnu vahen eish v'simu alehem ketoret lifnei Adonai machar v'haya ha'ish asher yivchar Adonai hu hakadosh Rav lachem b'nei Levi
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tocheinu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Yasher Kochech to Bonnie, another beautiful reading, and Yasher Koach to Roberto Franco, our second honorary honoree. We'll continue in a moment with Shlishi, our third reading, page 861, verses 8 through 13. A couple of years back, I was teaching Benot Mitzvah students for this parsha, and they asked me about verse 4. Moshe falling on his face, vayipol al panav. They said, what's this all about? I didn't know at the time this midrash. This one is picked up by Rashi as well, very fascinating. We're told Moshe was thrown into a tremor, for this was already the people's fourth offense. To what can this be compared? To a prince who had offended his father, the king, and for whom the king's friend had effected a reconciliation once, twice, 3 times. When the prince offends a 4th time, the king's friend loses courage, saying to himself, how many times can I trouble the king? Of course, the friend here is Moshe, the prince is Bnei Israel, and the king is Hashem. So what are the 3 previous offenses that Moshe is basically saying, how many times can I try this? What did Einstein say is the definition of an insanity? Trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Moshe feels probably like he's going a little insane. The first one was the golden calf. The second one, the murmurs, no food. The third one was the spies. And after each one of those episodes, God wanted to turn on the people. Moshe stepped up. And here again, Korach, a rebellion, Moshe just falls on his face. Let's continue. Third Aliyah, Shlishi, page 861 again, 8 through 13. Our third honorary honoree is Hanan Bell. This week, Hanan is commemorating a yortzeit of his grandmother's, Anne Rabinovich. And so we are very pleased and honored to call Hanan for this Aliyah. Yamod Elchanan ben Aryeh v'Shoshana L'Aliyah HaShlishit Baruch Adonai Hamvorach
Baruch Adonai Baruch
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Moshe el Korach Shimuna b'nei Levi Hamad mikem ki hivdil Elohei Yisrael etchem me'adat Yisrael lehakriv etchem elav la'avod et avodat mishkan Adonai v'la'amod lifnei ha'edah l'shartam v'yakrev otach ואת כל אחיך בני לוי איתך, וביקשתם גם כהונה, לכן אתה וכל דעתך הנועדים על אדוני, ואהרון מהו כי תלינו עליו, וישלח משה לקרוא לדתן ולאבירם בני אליאב, ויאמרו לו נעלה, Hamad ki ha'elitanu me'eretz avad chalav udvash lahamitenu bamidbar ki tistarer aleinu gam
histarer Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Yasher Korach to Hanan Bell, our third honorary honoree this morning, and Yasher Kochech Kol Kavod Bonnie Robinson. Beautiful Torah readings this morning. Bonnie and I are going to make a switch. I'm going to take over with the laning, and Bonnie's going to gabbai. And Bonnie, I'm going to need you to be close because I learned this one early this morning. My son had me up early this morning, so I was studying and trying to keep an eye on him at the same time. And I had it, but I haven't reviewed it since. So we'll see how it goes. I should have it pretty fresh. I know, I agree. We're going to move on in just a moment. Rivi E, a very special aliyah coming up because our honorary honorees are Dolly and Lawrence Cohen, who are celebrating with this aliyah their 55th wedding anniversary. Dolly and Lawrence are quite regular Shabbat morning attendees. They are great supporters of ours, great part of our community. And they had been planning quite a celebration in-house with family and friends, with relatives from out of town. Of course, that couldn't happen, which is unfortunate. But silver lining is we're gonna have this. And then somewhere in the future, I know they're planning an actual get-together. So in the meantime, we'll have them with this special honorary aliyah coming up in just a moment. Just need to get my gloves before we can continue. How are the trivia answers going?
I think we have a winner.
Do you know the answer, by the way, Rabbi? How many parshiot are?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe this is the opportunity. How many do we have?
6.
Who are they?
And I will read it from here.
6 parshiot that are named for people? Let's hear. Well, we've got this one, Korach. What else? Who do we have?
Let's go from the beginning.
Yep.
Noah,
Noah, correct.
Sarah,
In Chaye Sarah. Yeah, that's the tricky one, right? Because it is. Chaye Sarah.
Yitro,
Number 3,
Korach.
Yitro. Korach,
Balak,
Balak,
Pinchas.
and Pinchas.
Okay, I was wrong.
What were you going to say, Bonnie?
I was going to say 2.
And the only 2 people...
Stick to the laning, Bonnie. You're amazing at that.
And there were 2 winners, Yerach Leizerovich
It's true, there are
and
6.
Joan Saif.
Yeah.
But the difference is Joan said that it was a family effort. So it wasn't just
Oh,
her.
good, good. That means
that's
Leo and
good.
Sammy were in on it. Joanne's kids, Leo and Sammy, are absolutely fabulous. They come to our family service on a regular basis. We
And
miss
they dance.
that whole family for sure.
Lots of people who said 5. I guess they forgot Chaye Sarah.
That's right. Chaye Sarah is the trick. I think what's really interesting about it is that 3 of these characters are not Hebrews. Noach
Well, no, it wasn't.
was not a Hebrew.
No.
Yitro.
Yitro, a righteous Gentile, and Balak.
Korach.
Korach was a Hebrew.
Yeah, no, it was... But
I know. He was a bad guy, but he was still a Hebrew. Well done to Yerach from Orlando and to the Seif family. That's fantastic. That's right, 6. Very good. So we'll split your $25 gift cards. Each get $12.50.
and we have a question from Debbie Pollock. Why is the word Talinu written in small print?
Oh, well, that one will be for a lesson with Debbie when she agrees to do another Torah reading somewhere down the line. Number 4 is next. Special aliyah for Dolly and Lawrence. Page 862, if you have the Etz Chaim Chumash, verses 14 through 19. Ya'amduhu Penina bat Shmuel v'tama, Velabel ben Moshe upasa Rachel, Lalia Harvit.
That was very nice. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Avlo el eretz zavar chalav udvash havi otanu vatiten lanu nachalat sde v'acharem sadeh v'acharem haine anashim ahem tinaker lo naleh. Vayichar leMoshe meod, vayomer el Adonai al tefen el minchatam, lo chamor echad mehem nasati, velo hareoti et achad mehem. Vayomer Moshe el Korach, ata v'chol adatecha, heyu lifnei Adonai, ata vahem v'haron machar, ukchu ish machtato. Untatem alehem ketoret, v'hikravtem lifnei Adonai ish machtato, chamishim u'motayim machtot, ve'ata ve'aron ish machtato. Vayichu ish machtato, vayinu alehem esh, vayasimu alehem ketoret, vayamdu petach oel moed u'Moshe ve'Aharon, vayakel alehem Korach et kol ha'eda el petach oel moed, vayirach od Adonai el kol ha'eda.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Chaye Olam Nata B'Tochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. For Dolly and Lawrence. Mishe Beirach Avotenu Avram Yitzchak V'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yavarech Pnina bat Shmuel v'Tama V'Label ben Moshe upasa Rocho Bavur Sheba'u Hayom Lehodot L'Shem Kodsho Al Kol HaChesed Asher Gamal Lahem Miyom Chatunatam Umiyom Simchat Libam Ad Hayom Hazeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmerem V'Yatzilem Mikol Tzara V'Tzukah Mikol Nega U'Machala V'Yishlach Bracha V'Atzlacha B'Chol Maseh Yedehem Im Kol Yisrael Achehem V'Nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Dolly and Lawrence Cohen, Pnina, bat Shmuel v'Tama, and Label ben Moshe upasa Rachel, who are here today with gratitude for all the blessings their 55 years of married life together have afforded them. May the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, protect you and deliver you. May you continue to enjoy God's blessings in the new song of your years to come, embraced by the love of children and grandchildren, so that you may always live in joy and gladness, in peace and companionship. And let us all say, Amen. Hod yeshama behare Yehuda uvechutzot Yerushalayim. Hod yeshama behare Yehuda uvechutzot Yerushalayim. Ko sason veko simcha, ko chatan veko kala. Ko sason veko simcha, ko chatan veko kala. Mazel Tov and Yasher Koach to Dolly and Lawrence Cohen celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary. It's absolutely beautiful for us to be able to join in this simcha. We wish you many, many more years together, as we've said in this special Misha Berach, echoing words from the Sheva Brachot from your wedding, the 7 blessings, joy and gladness, sason v'simcha, peace and companionship. Shalom v'reut. All right. Our next aliyah is even more special. Well, not even more, but connected. Because we're celebrating another anniversary, a 16th anniversary. Michelle and Ben Levitch, who I believe live in the Twin Cities. Michelle and Ben are Dolly and Lawrence's daughter and son-in-law.
Oh, nice.
And if I understand this correctly, and email me if I'm wrong, because I think this is what Dolly emailed me earlier in the week. Both of these couples share the same wedding day.
Nice.
And that Michelle and Ben specifically picked their wedding day, according to Dolly, because they wanted to tap in to whatever made Dolly and Lawrence's marriage work. And they figured that it was a good idea to pick the same wedding day. So we're celebrating these two anniversaries because they really are linked, not just by family, but also by date. So very, very special, a double link. And because ordinarily we would love to have, and I believe Michelle and Ben were married here in Shared Zedek. They live in the Twin Cities, but they were married here. So same place, same date. Very, very cool. And they're in the Twin Cities, and they're tuning in with us, and we look forward to when we can all be together in the same place, but to be together celebrating both of these anniversaries. Extra special for Bonnie, Rabbi Mas, and for myself, for our whole community. So let's move on with that. Chamishi, our fifth aliyah, page 863 if you have it. You've been following the story. The story is tremendous. It's one of the more dramatic and really fantastic descriptions and stories that we have in the Torah. And in this long aliyah, everything is going to play out. And it's quite, you'll follow along and see what happens to Korach, Datan, and Aviram, and also to Moshe. So page 863, verses 20 through 35. Yamdu Yonina Chana Rivka bat Label Upnina Ubinyamin ben Chaim v'Chana Laliyah HaChamishit.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe vel Aaron lemor hibadlu mitoch haida hazot v'chalei otam keraga vayiplu al pneihem vayomru el Elohei aruchot lechol basar ha'ish echad yecheta ve'al kol haida tiksof. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el haida lemor, he'alu misaviv lemishkan Korach, Datan v'Aviram. Vayakom Moshe, vayelech el Datan v'Aviram, vayelchu acharav ziknei Yisrael. Vayedaber el haida lemor, suruna me'al. Aholei ha'anashim ha'reshaim ha'elev el tigu b'chol asher lahem pen tisafu b'chol chatotam vaye'alu me'al mishkan Korach Datan v'Aviram misaviv v'Datan v'Aviram yatsu nitzavim Petach aholehem unshehem uvnehem v'tapam vayomer Moshe bezot tedun ki Adonai shelachani la'asot et kol masim ha'ele ki lo milibi im kemot kol ha'adam yimutun ele ufkudat kol ha'adam yipaked alehem lo Adonai shelachani v'imbria yivra Adonai ufatzta hadama et pia uvala otam v'kol asher lahem v'yardu chayim she'ola vidatem ki niatzu hanashim ha'eled Adonai vayehi kechaloto ledaber et kol advarim ha'eleh Batibakad asher tachtehem Batibakad asher tachtehem Vatiftach haaretz et piha Vativla otam et vet batehem Vekol ואת כל האדם אשר לקורח ואת כל הרכוש וירדו הם וכל אשר להם חיים שעולה ותכעס עליהם הארץ ויעבדו מתוך הקהל וכל ישראל אשר סביבותיהם נעשו לקולם כי אמרו פן תבלענו הארץ ושיצא מאת אדוני ותאכל את 50 ו200 איש מקריבי הקטורת.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Bonnie, doing a great job gabbying for me, helping spotting me. You don't just need it for weightlifting, you need it for brain weightlifting like Torah reading. Again, this is a special anniversary aliyah for Michelle and Ben Levitch of the Twin Cities. Michelle originally from Winnipeg, and it's our honor to offer this Misha Berach to both of you. Misha Berach, Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, Sarivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yevarech, Et Yonina Chana Rivka Bat Label Upnina, Bet Binyamin Ben Chaim v'Chana, בעבור שבאו היום להודות לשם קודשו על כל החסד אשר גמל להם מיום חתונתם ומיום שמחת ליבם עד היום הזה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמם ויציע מכל צרה ובצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם עם כל ישראל אחיהם ונאמר Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah bless Michelle and Ben Levitch, Yonina, Chana Rivka, Bat Lebu Pnina, and Binyamin ben Chaim v'Chana, who are here today with gratitude for all the blessings their 16 years of married life together have afforded them. To both of you we say, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, protect you and deliver you. May you continue to enjoy God's blessings in the new song of your years to come, so that you may always live in joy and gladness and in peace and companionship. And let us say, Amen. Hod yeshama be'arei Yehuda ubechutzot Yerushalayim. Hod yeshama be'arei Yehuda ubechutzot Yerushalayim. Kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol kala, kol sason ve'kol simcha. Kol chatan v'kol kala. Mazel tov, Yesher koach. May you continue to have many more years of married life together, and may we have an opportunity to celebrate these anniversaries all together sometime in the near future. In the meantime, what a wonderful double simcha today for Dolly and Lawrence and Michelle and Ben. We'll continue in just a second with Shishi, our sixth aliyah. Page 865, that finished chapter 16. You see the earthquake, you see the fire, everybody is toast. And, and now we're going to move on to chapter 17, verses 1 through 8. Just quickly, there's a great lesson. There's actually a couple of very important lessons in there. One's in the Etz Chaim Chumash. This idea when Moshe tells everyone to kind of get away from Datan, Aviram, Korach's tents, right? Because the ground literally opens up and they're swallowed right up. There's a great teaching in the Etz Chaim Chumash, if you have it in the commentary, about this idea that there were people who weren't necessarily going along with Korach, but they weren't necessarily vocally opposed to Korach. I think this is a message that resonates especially right now with everything going on in this last month. We talk about neutrality not being an option. And that's kind of the message that one of the commentators says there, is that you need to distance yourself from Korach. Even if you don't feel like you've joined up with him, just by proximity, you could get caught up in everything that is happening to him, and you're really kind of throwing support to him. So that was the first thing. The other thing is about Moshe. When you think about what Datan and Aviram said to him, I didn't talk about it, they called Egypt the land of milk and honey. Like, what a slap in the face to call Egypt the land of milk and honey. To accuse Moses of pulling the wool over their eyes. That's not the expression, I'm talking about gouging their eyes, but it's the same idea. It's trying to fool them. And Moses is deeply offended. You see, he turns to God and says, I've never offended them. I've never treated them wrong. And so in spite of that, we have that Moshe rose up and went to Datan and Aviram. He still, in spite of all of the things that they had done to him, he took the high road and went to them. Another very important lesson that Rashi grabs onto as well. And finally, about the earth opening up and swallowing them up. There's a story in the Talmud. I thought you may find this interesting. Rabba Bar Chana said, I was proceeding on my travels when an Arab said to me, come, and I will show you where the men of Korach were swallowed up. I went and saw 2 cracks in the earth from which issued smoke. He took a piece of clipped wool, soaked it in water, attached it to the point of his spear, and passed it over there, and it was singed. So I said to him, listen to what you are about to hear. And I heard them saying, Moshe and his Torah are true, and they, Korach's company, are liars. Interesting story in the Talmud right there. All right.
But if you read the Parsha, actually they are accusing Moses of feeding the people fake news.
That's true too.
It's exactly that.
That's exactly right, yeah. Lots of accusations against Moshe and Aharon that aren't exactly fair at all.
But I think it's a clear reference of fake news in the Torah, but
Totally.
that's the accusation.
It's very true.
You are blinding them with what you are, you're presenting.
It's true.
It's very interesting.
A lot of people point out the fact that Datan and Aviram get swallowed up by the earthquake, but Korach does not, and it's a little bit confusing. There's a midrash that mentions that Korach was actually smitten with both afflictions. Is it in your sermon?
A little bit.
Well, it's a good illusion. Not only was he swallowed up by the earth, but he was also consumed by the fire. And I don't want to take too much because I don't know what Rabbi Mas is going to say, but it's interesting that the midrash says Korach got doubly, because later in the Torah it says he was swallowed up, but here in the story it doesn't say that. It's very interesting. The midrash jumps in and says he got a dose of both. The 250 men who were going to bring the incense got the fire. Datan and Aviram got the earthquake, and Korach got both. How does that work? I don't want to steal anything. I don't know if you're talking about that, but maybe we'll talk about it later. Shishi, 6th Aliyah, verses 1 through 8 in chapter 17. Thelma Suris this week is commemorating the Yortzeit of her mother, Lola Suris. And so she has asked, and we are honored to bestow this honorary Aliyah on her. Verses 1 through 8. Tamo tova b'gedalia v'leah, l'aliyah hashishit.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Morach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, emor el Elazar ben Aharon haKohen, v'yarem et hamachton mibein hasrefa v'et haesh, zre halaki kadeshu et machton achataim haele benafshotam, ve'asu otam rikuei fachim ציפוי למזבח, כי הקריבום לפני אדוני, ויקדשו, ויהיו לאות לבני ישראל, ויקח אלעזר הכהן, את מחתות הנחושת, אשר הקריבו השרופים וירקום ציפוי למזבח, זיכרון לבני ישראל, למען אשר לא יקרב איש זר, אשר לא מזרע אהרון. הוא להקטיר קטורת לפני אדוני, ולא יהיה כקורח וחדתו, כאשר דיבר אדוני ביד משה לו, וילונו כל עדת בני ישראל ממחרת, על משה ועל אהרון לאמור, אתם עמיתם את עם אדוני, ויהי בהיקהל העדה על משה ועל אהרון, ויפנו אל אוהל מועד,
moed, v'hinei chisau ha'enan, vayera kvod Adonai, vayavo Moshe ve'Aharon el pnei ohel moed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher kochech to Thamasuris, our honorary 6th honoree this morning. We'll jump to our final aliyah, Shvi'i Maftir, in just a moment. Jerome Foman is our final honoree. He'll be chanting the Haftarah coming up in just a few minutes from now. Page 867, if you have the Etz Chaim, verses 9 through 15. Just before we call Jerome, wanted to share this with you. First of all, in that, so you see, remember, when the Torah was originally written, there were no chapter breaks, there were no verses, it didn't work like that. And you can really see that the story just immediately continues right after the fire strikes down these 250 followers of Korach, the Tananavi Ram. They want to turn their pans. God wants Eleazar, Aaron's son from the Kohanim, to turn these copper pans into siding for the altar, so that it's less about a function for the altar, but more about being a symbol. In fact, there's the word le'ot, v'yihiyu le'ot, livnei Yisrael, a sign. And then even later on, there is also a word that would be translated as a warning. What's the Hebrew word for a warning? Why is it not jumping out to me? Zikaron, a reminder, and also a sign, a warning. These are the same Hebrew words that are used in other places in the Torah for similar things that have a function of reminding us for the future about what had happened in the past. That's the whole idea, so that anyone thinking about leading a rebellion against Moshe or against Aharon, the idea is they will see the copper siding or the plating on the altar, on the Mizbeach, and be like, oh, right, that's what happened to people who did that. What are the other examples? A rainbow. A rainbow after Noach, after the flood, was a symbol, a reminder to God, actually, that God would never destroy the world again like God had with the flood. That's why we talk about it being a brit, a covenant, and the blessing when we see a rainbow is a zocher habrit. God remembers the covenant, but it's a symbol, and the same words are used. And we also use those words like an ot for tefillin, as a symbol, as a reminder of we get to that later in Devarim with the idea of how we love God with all of our heart, with all of our head, with all of our soul, with all of our might. All this kind of stuff for the tefillin. So just thought that was interesting.
What about Yom HaZikaron?
And Yom HaZikaron, a day of remembrance, of course. Very, very good. That's the story I just wanted to point out there. I'll share a conclusion after our final reading. Let's get to it now. Page 867, verses 9 through 15. Yamod, Zelig ben Ephraim v'Golda, Maftir Chazak.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, Heromu mitoch haida hazod, v'achale otam keraga vayplu al pneihem. Vayomer Moshe el Aharon, kach et hamachta, v'ten aleha esh me'al hamizbeach v'sim ketoret, ve'olech me'ira el eda v'chaper alehem, ki yatsa ketzef milifnei Adonai chel hanagef. Vayikach Aharon kasher diber Moshe, vayarotz el toch hakahal v'hinei hechel hanegef bam, vayiten et haketoret vayechaper alam, vayamod ben hametim uven hachaim vateetzar hamagefa, vayihiyu hametim b'magefa arba'asar elef ushva meod, milvad hametim al davar Korach, vayashov Aharon el Moshe el petach el moed ve'hamagefa netzara.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Even after the miracle, the double miracle of the earthquake, the ground opening up and swallowing up these offenders, and even after the fire that comes forth and destroys the 250 Nesiim, the chieftains, the people are still grumble. And so there's a plague, which Aharon, as we just read, has to do something with incense to affect the end of the plague. There's another miracle that comes involving Aharon's staff. We don't get to that this year. Our reading is done for today. We'll have to see that next year when we get to the second triennial cycle. This another miracle to reaffirm Aharon and the Kohanim's place among society, among Israelite society. So you can read ahead, of course, and we'll get to that when we hit Korach next year on the cycle. The last thing I wanted to share was this very, very interesting teaching. I alluded to this in a video a few weeks ago, that on the second day of creation is the only day in the creation story in Breshit where God does not say at the end, "and it was good." On the third day, God says it twice. On the first day once, on the second day never, on the third day twice, and then all subsequent days, and it was good, and it was good, and it was good. Why not on the second day? Because on that day, divisiveness was created. It is written in Breshit chapter 1, verse 6, "Let there be a firmament, a rakia, within the water." Remember? To separate the waters above, to divide the waters above from the waters below. Shamayim, mayim. Waters above, waters below. And the sky is the firmament, the rakia, to cause the separation. Because divisiveness was created on the second day, God did not say, "and it was good." It was necessary in creation, but this idea that now nature had this idea of opposing forces, which play out in this parsha, made God not say, "and it was good." That'll be our final thought for today. Thank you for following along with the Torah reading. The Haftarah is coming up in just moments, page 877 from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 11, verse 14 through chapter 12, verse 15. This is about Samuel, Shmuel the prophet, and the people are grumbling against Shmuel, like they grumbled against Moshe. They want a king. They weren't supposed to have kings, but they want a king. God's the king. They don't need kings. And Shmuel has a reaction to the people very similar to Moshe, falling on his face and almost giving up. So we'll see Jerome do that in just a moment. First, we're going to lift and tie the Torah. Hagba Galila, please rise wherever you are. V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. So again, it's an abbreviated form of a long haftarah. The last verse will be chapter 12, verse 15, page 877, book of 1 Samuel, chapter 11, 14 to chapter 12, 15. Jerome Foman. Jerome, start now.
Hello? Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'atzah b'divreihem nemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo וישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. ויאמר שמואל אל העם, לכו ונלכה הגילגל, ולחדש שם המלוכה. וילכו כל העם הגילגל, וימליכו שם את שאול לפני אדוני בגילגל, ויזבחו שם זבחים שלמים לפני אדוני, וישמח שם שאול וכל אנשי ישראל עד מאוד. ויאמר שמואל אל כל ישראל, הנה שמעתי בקולכם לכל אשר אמרתם לי, ימליך עליכם מלך. ועתה הנה המלך מתהלך לפניכם, ואני זקנתי ושבתי, ובניי הינם איתכם, ואני התהלכתי לפניכם מנעורי עד היום הזה. הנני אנו בי נגד אדוני ונגד משיחו את שור, מי לקחתי וחמור מי לקחתי, ואת מי עשקתי, את מי רצותי, ויד מי לקחתי כופר, גלים עיני בו, וישיב לכם. ויאמרו לא עשקתנו, ולא רצותנו, ולא לקחת מיד איש מאומה. ויאמר עליהם, עד אדוני ברכם, ועד משיחו היום הזה, אם לא מצאתם בידי מאומה. ויאמר עד, ויאמר שמואל אל העם, אדוני אשר עשה את משה ואת אהרון, ואשר העלה את אבותיכם מארץ מצרים, ועתה התייצבו, וישבת איתכם לפני אדוני, את כל צדקות אדוני, אשר עשה אתכם ואת אבותיכם, כאשר בא יעקב מצרים, ויזעקו אבותיכם אל אדוני, וישלח אדוני את משה ואת אהרון, והוציאו את אבותיכם ממצרים, ויושיבו במקום הזה. וישכחו את אדוני אלוהיכם במקורותם, ביד סיסרא שר צבא חצור, וביד פלישתים, וביד מלך מואב, וילחמו בם. ויזעקו אל אדוני, ויאמרו חטאנו, כי עזבנו את אדוני, ונעבוד את הבעלים ואת השטרות, ועתה הצילנו מיד אויבינו ונעבדך. וישלח אדוני את ירובל ואת בדן, ואת יפתח ואת שמואל, ויעצר אתכם מיד אויביכם מסביב, ותשבו בטח, ותראו כה נחש מלך בני עמון בא עליכם, ותאמר לי לא, כי מלך ימלוך עלינו, ואדוני אלוהיכם מלככם. ועתה הנה המלך אשר בחרתם אשר שלתם, הנה נתן אדוני עליכם מלך, אם תראו את אדוני, ידעתם אותו, ושמרתם בקולו, ולא תאמרו את פי אדוני, הייתם גם אתם, וגם המלך אשר מלך עליכם, אחר אדוני אלוהיכם. ואם לא תשמעו בקול אדוני, ומריתם את פי אדוני, והייתה יד אדוני בכם ובבתיכם, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו, רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, לעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו, ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, באליהו הנביא עבדך, ומלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסאו לא ישב זר, ולא יכחדו עוד אחדים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד, על התורה ועל העבודה, ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודיעים לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. Jerome, just an absolutely outstanding job with a difficult haftarah. This was an abridged one, right? So we had to find a good place to cut it, and it's a long one, and you did a fabulous job, Jerome. We miss so many people, and Jerome, of course, is here pretty much every day of the week for daily minyan. He's here on Shabbat. He was in the Sherzetta choir for years. He's a great volunteer Torah reader, and as you saw today, a great volunteer Haftarah reader. He's one of the many people who really makes Congregation Sherzetta a congregation. And I was saying to Jerome, Jerome, I can't believe it took me this long to get you to do a Haftarah, to ask you to do a Haftarah. He wasn't complaining. He was just waiting patiently, and it paid off because what an honor for all of us to get to hear you today, Jerome. And may I say, the beard, I don't want that to be just a COVID beard. That should be an all-time beard. I think the beard is great. Great color, great. There's different ways to measure a beard, right? You measure on color, you measure on thickness, you measure on shape, you measure on how much they take care of the neck. It looked to me, Jerome, like you were doing pretty good on all fronts. So, Yasher Korach again on the Haftarah. If anyone has a Yortzeit or is interested in daily services this evening, Bonnie and Bill will be back at 6 o'clock for Mincha and Ma'ariv still, I think. Are you doing a little Ma'ariv still? Or no, just Mincha. Just Mincha, with the Torah reading. That's at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow morning at 9. Tomorrow night at 6. During the week, everything is standard except, remember, Wednesday, and for some of you out-of-towners like Americans who are on Wednesday, is our Independence Day, Canada Day, July the 1st. And on that day, the morning Shacharit service won't be at 7:30, it'll be at 9. Everything else is as usual, but 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. Rabbi Mas is going to return, and as we wait for him to come back after saying goodbye to Jerome, we're going to get ready for the Misha Berach for all those who are sick. Harav Shmuel ben Bracha, Aviva bat Malka, Yaakov ben Sion ben Miriam, Yaakov Gavriel ben Esther, Daniel ben Sivia, Eliyahu ben Sarah, Esther Leah bat Nachama, Isabella bat Sarah, Pinchas ben Batsheva, Donna Barnson, Sharon bat Golda, Esther bat Leah, Chaya Zahava bat Leah, Achazan Shefer ben Miriam, David Tzvi ben Sarah Pesel, Dina Rachel bat Sarah Esther, Shir Naomi bat Dina Rachel, Aharon ben Yamin ben Shir Naomi, Yisrael Chaim ben Shir Naomi, Yitzchak Chaim ben Sarah, Tovayael ben bat Dina Rachel, Eliezer Meir ben Tovayael, Katriel Yosef ben Tovayael, Leah bat Rachel, Dvor Gito bat Leah, Binyamin Pinchas ben Dvor Gito, Nachum Le ben Leah, Rina bat Ariela, Yaakov ben Henya, Ben Hurt, Shalom David ben Sarah, Stephen Lee, Atara bat Etel, Moshe Aharon ben Leah, Ariel Neshama bat Sarah, Judy Sipe, Malka bat Esther, Tzvi Aryeh ben Sharna, Leah Sarah bat Sarah, Chana bat Leah Sarah, Leah bat Sarah, Rivka bat Roberta, Bril Cohen, Devorah bat Galuta, Elkim Pesach ben Esther Pesi, Batya bat Rachel, Shmuel Le ben Gito, Liba bat Gito, Chaya Leah bat Fega, Daniel ben Devorah, Bat Sheva bat Sarah. These are just the names on our list. I know a few people have been adding names. I'm going to turn things over to Rabbi Anibal, and he can read the other names people have submitted this morning. Remember, you can always call the office and add names to our list we read out every day, every morning when we do these prayers. And then we'll continue page 34 in the Siddur, the back to the Siddur for this special Misha Berach. Rabbi.
Herbert Singer, Rose Popesky, Shaila Streifler, Lois Ackerman, Kyla Sharon Goldenberg. Mishebeira Aboteinu Mekor Abraha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. Let us say, Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu mekor abracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit. And let us say, Amen. Amen. Please remain standing to return the Torah to the ark. Yehalelu, page 41. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado. Odo al-eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren le'amot teila lechol chasida libnei Israel am kerobot. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. We can only do that when there is no people around.
Why?
Can you imagine Bonnie marching with the Torah with that speed?
That's true.
Page 43. Etz chaimi lamachazikima vetom keya meushar deracheyam darecheinoam בכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו, קדש ימינו כקדם. And you may be seated. Sit down, relax. Get a sip of scotch if you have it next to you. It's time to study a little bit more about the parsha. Oh. Time for the sermon. But before that, I have a joke. Yes, of course, I have a joke for you. Yeah. This is about a politician who visits a small village, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And he went to talk to the leaders in that village, and he asked them, is there anything that I can do for you? And the leaders said to the politician, well, now that you mention, we have two big needs in this place. The politician said, what's the first one? Well, the thing is, we have a beautiful hospital here, but we have no doctors. Politician said, leave it with me. He takes his cell phone, he dials a number. Somebody picks up on the other side. He starts yelling at the other person. Yelling, fuming, say, how it is possible, blah, 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 blah. No excuses. No. I want it right away. Thank you very much. He closed his phone, put it back in his pocket, and said to the leaders, no problem. Within a week, you're going to have a doctor here. What is the second big need that you have? Well, second big need is we have no cell phone reception at all in the village.
That's a good joke. That is a good joke.
Well, I want to talk to you today about give or take. You see, I know. Give or take is, it's kind of an idiom, right? That it means that something is approximately like that, give or take. But I want to take the literal meaning of that expression. Give or take. And I think this is incredibly important, because the more I look at people, the more I realize that most people fit into one of these two categories. We have the givers and you have the takers. And the fact is that we talk a lot about counting blessing, being aware of what we have. And that is a wonderful thing, except that sometimes we get trapped into that mental exercise, and all what we have as a result of that is that we want more. We are aware of what we have, but we are also aware of what we don't have, and we want more blessings, more things for us. And you see, but sometimes this is it's confusing. Great characters in the Torah went through this confusion until they learned through life, because life happened to them. They learned how confused they were. The first name that I have in mind when I talk about that is Joseph. Remember the big dream that he had, that he dreamed with the sun and the moon and the stars all bowing down to him. And he understood that that meant that his parents and his brothers are going to come to him and they are going to bow down to him. Oh, you can only imagine how Joseph felt when he understood, when he interpreted that dream, which eventually did happen, because Joseph was the viceroy of Egypt. They all came to him. They all pretty much bowed down to him, but this is the catch. They didn't bow down to him to serve Joseph. They bowed down to him, but it was Joseph, the one who understood that it was all about him serving his father and his brothers. He wasn't there to take from them. He was there to give them, to provide them. And it took a while for him, but he finally understood that. But in this week's Parsha, when we are talking about Korach, we have something very interesting. Not only because, and by now you probably understand why I picked that joke, because Korach is probably the perfect example of the bad politician, right? Because that's exactly what he was. But there is something very interesting at the beginning of the Parsha. The first two words of this Torah portion, it says, Va'ikach Korach, and Korach took. Right away, from the beginning, we are introduced to Korach, and the Torah is letting us know that he was a taker. Va'ikach Korach. And of course, the rabbis are trying to guess what is that he took. And then Rashi said, well, he took himself to the wrong path, almost like the dark side of the force. That was meant by Va'ikach Korach. Even Ezra said he took other people. Sforno said he took 250 leaders. And Reish Lakish in the Talmud, he said he took a bad deal for himself. But what I think is whatever he took is irrelevant. That's not the point. The point is that he was a taker. And in life, we have givers and we have takers. One side we have Korach, the taker, and the other hand we have Moses, the giver. It doesn't take much to realize how much of a giver Moses was. From the very beginning, he was always preoccupied for other people, putting in hold his own life in order to serve others. He was a prince in Egypt, and he left all that behind in order to be the ultimate giver. In fact, also in this parsha, and it's very interesting, sometimes gets overlooked, when Korach and his people confronted Moses, Moses talked to God. And what is the first thing that Moses said to God? Why are they complaining about me? I didn't take anything from them. Because he was not a taker. He was a giver. So we have this contrast between one and the other. Korach represents the ones that they are unsatisfied, ungrateful, greedy, like many other characters in the Torah. We learned that about King Saul and how insecure he was, and he got jealous of David because people considered David was more popular than him. We studied that about Haman, that he had everything except for one person who will not bow down to him, and he was so ungrateful and unsatisfied that he went crazy. And we have Korach, and you know what they all have in common? They all have bad endings to the story. They all ended badly. This case of Korach, according to the Talmud, as Rabbi Leibel mentioned before, double punishment. He was burned by the fire, and he was swallowed by the earth. And I think it's very appropriate that he was swallowed by the earth, because he always wanted more and more and more material things. And the perfect punishment is he was swallowed by the madness of wanting to take more and more and more. He was surrounded by it now. He's in the middle of the earth, but he cannot even enjoy that. But there is also something that is known in Judaism as practical halakha. That means sometimes we read the stories of the Bible, and they have very nice ethical teachings. But in this case, there is a practical halakha. It's a mitzvah that we learn from this parsha. And it says, do not be like Korach. It's a verse on the Torah that is specifically telling us what to do, how to be. Don't be like Korach. And sometimes we understand that the problem with Korach was that he argued against Moses. So we shouldn't argue with authority. No, I think that's the detail. The root of the problem, and what we should be aware and we should be away from it, is to become people that all they do is to take from others and never give to others. What it really means to don't be like Korach, is to be like Moses. And to understand that if life puts you in a position of power, in a position that you have the chance to help others, that's exactly what you should do. You are not there for your benefit. You are there for the benefit of others. Because if there is something that you should learn about Korach, is that takers seems to enjoy life for a while, but it's not a good way of going through life. The right way of going through life, the way of leaving a legacy behind ourselves when we leave this world, is to be like Moses and to become the ultimate givers. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. That was very, very good. Yasher Koach.
Thank you.
Very scholarly. I really enjoyed that. And I even enjoyed your joke today.
Wow.
Well, it's no secret. Usually they're groaners for me, but he does that on purpose. He knows that he knows that. This is not something new, but that was a great joke.
I spent days thinking, how can I annoy this guy?
Me? Yeah, right.
Come on, Aleinu, page 44, please rise.
Come on.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים
לפני מלך מלכי המלכים,
הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתנו זו, וגובי מרומים, ואלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו ופסולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים
בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ
מתחת אין עוד.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו We invite you to remain standing for the Mourner's Kaddish, which is on page 46. This past week, we mourned the passing from Vancouver, British Columbia, of Debbie Hutchings, and we offer our heartfelt sympathy to Mary Hutchings. We extend our condolences to the family of Barry Lank, who are still in the first month of losing their loved one. And this week we commemorate the yortzites of Anne Rabinovich, grandmother of Hanan Bell, Lola Suris, mother of Thelma Suris, Enid Salita, mother of David Salita, and Lillian Claire Titleman, sister of Elaine Margulis, all of blessed memory. Again, the Kaddish, page 46. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'galau v'zman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Should we leave it there?
No, let's do it.
You'd like to do Adon Olam? Please be seated. Thank you again to everybody for tuning in. What a wonderful morning. Yasher Korach again to Rabbi Anibal Mas
Yasher Koyak to Rabbi Leibel. And by the way,
and to Bonnie.
if you want another insight on this parsha, don't miss the video that Rabbi Leibel uploaded to the internet. They're in our channels, on the YouTube and Facebook channels. And he's talking more about this dispute that Korach had with Moses, but he's going to the detail of what really happened there. And you're in a trivia mode this week.
I'm always in a trivia mode. You know that. I was a reach for the top guy, champion,
Yeah, but it's interesting
and
because
a Jeopardy fan.
his video opens with a question. If you want the answer, you have to wait until the end.
That's
the
just
oldest
good-
trick I've ever heard.
That's just good storytelling, radio. That's storytelling 101. You've got to give a payoff at the end. But someone gave me a little bit of flack about the way I answered that trivia question, or that not trivia question, but if a house is full of Torah scrolls, does it need a mezuzah?
Spoiled.
The Midrash says that's one of the things that Korach, being a bit of a wise guy, right? When I was a kid, I got called a wise guy on a few occasions, so I recognize a wise guy when I see one, and
Like
I'm looking at a guy who sometimes knows how to be a wise guy too.
I have one here. It's Weissman.
Yeah, but the way I answered it, it's the contents of the house are not important. It doesn't matter what's in the house or what's not in the house. Every house needs a mezuzah. But someone didn't like, and so I said, "You're being a wise guy." Anyway, which version of Adon Olam?
Zim, of course.
Oh, you liking the Zim these days, huh?
Yeah, so people can sing with us.
Well, everyone can sing with us, so let's do it.
אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו, ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה ותפארה, אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אחד, ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, בצור חבלי, בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, בידו הפקיד רוחי, ותישן בעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא ידע. אדון עולם אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Everyone.
מבורך.
Have a wonderful week. Stay safe as always. And hope to see you soon in person. Maybe one day. Soon.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you.
Wow. Love that. Terry from New York said, I can hear the Canadian accent in Rabbi Leibel.
Canadians don't have accents.
Look,